Cowboys leading Kansas City. Raiders final was 27-24. Gary Green was the man shaken up on that punt. He was trying to block downfield, and he is one man that
you don't want to lose him.
Oh no, he's golden. He's one of the best at his position at corner.
Trainer Wayne Rudy coming off the sideline. I'll tell you, those trainers become very important people this time of the season. Most everybody on your team is nicked in one way or another.
Noel Kenny will start with his backs lined up in the end zone, right on the goal line. The Otis Brown, or is it Jackson? It's Jackson. Third-year back from Alabama, short yardage expert, and he ripped off 5 yards before Hegman and Harvey Martin could make the tackle.
Even though this Kansas City team ranks last in the league in the running department, they have run the ball more effectively in the past few weeks, and they understand the importance of getting that running game going. I honestly believe if you could take a Tony Dorsett or a Dickerson and put him in that backfield, you'd see an awful lot more running game.
Well, that's where the Chiefs might be looking in the next draft for a speedy runner. They had one. The Otis Brown dumped out of bounds after a 1-yard gain at the 11. The tragic death of Joe Delaney, who was the outside speed that Kansas City had enjoyed so much last couple of years, and in a hero's role, died in a drowning accident this spring. Washington takes the early lead against the Los Angeles Rams, and of course that score and that game of considerable interest to those of you watching here in Texas and in the Dallas area.
For a team inclined to the passing game, 2 running plays in a row, 3rd and short. Let's see what John Mackovic has in mind here.
Complete to Carlos Carson at the 20. A flag is down. If the play is allowed, it would be a first down. A gain of about 9. Everson Walls on the coverage.
Tremendous pressure on Kenny on that play from the Dallas Cowboy defense. You'll get a feeling for the action as we take you down to the field level, and you'll get a sense for the aggressiveness of this Cowboy defense. The man they're most concerned with, 54, Randy White. Look at him pouring in here. Bob Rush finally getting a stop on him after he deluded Buddy. But the Kenny pass is a very good one to the outside. Completed it to Carlos Carson as the officials have their conversation.
Illegal formation foul.
It's going to be against Kansas City, apparently. A legal formation. They did not have 7 men on the line of scrimmage, or they had an ineligible receiver lined up at the end of the line.
We mentioned number 54, Randy White. Look how quickly he escapes Buddy, and it takes the second blocker, and the second blocker barely able to slow him down before he hit Kenny. One of the reasons you get that kind of offensive formation foul, Dick, is because there's such a complex offense, and the rule is you've got to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage, and you must have a man with an ends number on each end of the line of scrimmage. Sometimes the Kansas City Chiefs, the Dallas Cowboys, outsmart themselves a little bit by moving their people around as much as they do.
And instead of a first down at the 20, the penalty takes it back to the 7-yard line, where it's 3rd down and 8. Kenny from the shotgun. He had a man open, Hancock, but misfired, and the Chiefs will have to punt the ball. So leading 7-0, Dallas will get the ball. You're going to get this report from NFL 83.
Thank you, Dick Enberg in Philadelphia. The Giants' Butch Wolfolk, who scores on this play, had 43 carries, an NFL record, gained 159 yards. The Giants win for the first time in 2 months, 23-0. Back to Dallas,
where the Cowboys lead Kansas City 7-0, and Dallas to receive the punt. Gary Allen is back at his 46-yard line, and Jim Arnold, who had a beauty 55-yarder, kicks from his own end zone. This one is shorter, and Allen hurrying to get it at the 46. And that was an excellent catch by Gary Allen, not only because he had to sprint up to get it, but he caught the ball below his knees and did not muff it. At the 42, we have a timeout. 39-yard punt, 8:05. Customary pose, facing the sidelines, crossing his arms at his chest, that ever-present play card in his hand, John Mackovic. In many ways, his demeanor, his manner, Mackovic, is much like Landry's. He's almost stony cold. There's not a lot of highs and lows. not what you'd call an emotional person. And I think he's copied and learned from Landry in that regard. That steadiness. He commented about that this morning. I want to be stable and steady for my team. From the 42, Danny White. Going down the sidelines, and Gary Green, no, that's Lloyd Burris on the coverage. Ron Springs on that deep swing.
Good job of coverage one-on-one by Lloyd Burris, and the Cowboys now have started 2 drives. The last one on the 45, the Chiefs 45. This one on the 42. That's excellent field position early in the game. Let's go back to New York, NFL 83.
Thank you, Merlin. Moments ago in Denver, Gary Kubiak is at quarterback for the Broncos. John Elway has the flu. 78 yards to Elway's favorite receiver. And Steve Watson goes all the way. That makes it 10-0 Denver now. Let's go back to Dallas.
So a new name to mark, Gary Kubiak in the book for the Denver Broncos. 2nd and 10 Cowboys at the Kansas City 42. They lead 7-0 midway through the first quarter. Little misdirection to Dorsett. He's down to the 41, a gain of only 1. Deron Cherry made the tackle. We'll report that Gary Green is okay. Bumped a knee. He's back in the game at left corner.
A lot of teams trying to take advantage of the quickness of defenses these days. They'll take a little stagger step. You see it right there, just a little start to the right, and now Dorsett coming back to the left, hoping to influence those linebackers, get them moving. Also trying to take advantage in this situation of the quick upfield rush by Mike Bell on that right defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs.
How about the defensive tackles? You played in there. Do you see what's happening on that, or are you just feeling what's happening?
You read that and the blocking of the line as well.
3rd and 9. Wide open is Hill. He's got the first down, I believe, at the 30-yard line, and a flag is down. We may have holding against Dallas.
Trent Bryant, burned earlier by the long pass, must respect the speed of Tony Hill. Hill drives him off in this situation, and there's no way that Bryant can get back in time to get a hand on that football. Well, he did get a hand on it, but Tony already had 2 on it.
It's called back on the penalty against the Cowboys. It takes it back to the 50. Jerry Markbright, the referee.
Holding number 67, offense, 3rd down.
Pat Donovan, a Pro Bowler the last 4 years, was guilty of the hold.
Look inside. Rafferty inside. There. Oop, we got it on the outside. We just talked about that matchup between Donovan and Bell. And last week, Bell not only got 3 sacks, but he got 3 sacks against All-Pro Anthony Munoz. Now that's some feat.
That's something to tack up on the wall. 3rd and 19. And he misfires as he looked for Drew Pearson, well covered by Deron Cherry, and Dallas will have to punt.
We talked about Donovan's holding penalty the last time. Let's show you something he did right. Taking one-on-one with Bell here. The blitz is on. Jackson going inside. A good job by Donovan of protecting his quarterback. Those offensive linemen get their names mentioned all too often in a negative sense. It's nice when we can show you a good play.
Donovan, part of that Irish connection on that Dallas offensive line. He says he's from a long line of potato farmers. They have an affinity for the dirt, and that's why they wind up in the offensive line.
They ate some dirt on that field in San Diego last week.
Yes, indeed. Danny White, a dying spiral toward J.T. Smith at the 12, 20.
Oh, look who's there.
And at the 22-yard line, where Bill Bates, number 40, made the tackle again. Ron Springs also in on the play. Kansas City, trailing 7-0, has the ball at its 22 as we take a timeout. You see Brad Buddy on the sidelines. When we talked to John Makovic this morning, he said the key matchup was whether Buddy could handle the All-Pro Randy White one-on-one today, and now Buddy's injured.
Well, that's one of the most frightening things that could have happened for that offense, because Randy White is the key to that defensive line, and when they can dominate you, they can put you in trouble. Mark Kirshner has gone into his place. Kirshner, picked up on waivers from the Pittsburgh Steelers a few weeks back, has not had much experience. That means that both guards have been replaced. Tom Condon on injured reserve. They've got Bob Simmons in at his place, and they've got a rookie, David Lutz, on the right-hand side. Boy, they've got their work cut out for him, Dick.
So Kirshner has his hands full with the All-Pro Randy White. We'll follow that matchup from the 22, trailing 7-0. Michael Downs was the man on the blitz. This is Henry Marshall. And he staggers out to a first down at the 33. Everson Walls got enough of him to trip him up. Let's go back to Kirshner against Randy White.
Mark Kirshner right here. The side of your screen is the man who has really got his work cut out for him. Let's see what Randy White does to him in the first play. Randy driving outside. Kirshner getting a handful of jersey, and Randy swatting him to the ground. But the young man did an effective job. You see the pickup right there. Both men blitzing, Downs on the inside, Brunig on the inside. They still got the pass away for a nice completion and a first down.
Ball at the 34-yard line. Dallas 7, Kansas City nothing. Late in the first quarter. Kenny going long. Carlos Carson. And his speed, the last 10 yards, had pulled him away from Dennis Thurman and Dexter Klingscale, and the pass just out of his reach. He's from LSU. Carson in his 4th year, and he feels he's Pro Bowl material.
The critical replay again. Mark Kirshner with his hands cut out for him. Let's see what he does on Randy. He's getting help on the inside. The center Rush coming over and bumping Randy to the outside. But that's the kind of thing you have to do. You put a youngster in there, give him a tough job, give him a little help. Dick, you're absolutely right about the speed by the receiver there. Just accelerated out of the pack.
2nd and 10. Draw play to Jackson. And he's caught from behind by Too Tall Jones at the 39. It'll be a gain of 5. 2nd down and 3rd down now and 5 for Kansas City. Ed Jones, number 1 pick in 74, took time off to try boxing, and the last 2 years has been a Pro Bowler.
Last week, Randy White got in a little shoving match with a couple of linebackers for San Diego and didn't fare too well. Too Tall said, listen, let me give you some pointers on the way you can use your hands, and next time do a better job out there for us.
Yeah, they both can do one thing very well, and that's sing. Both Danny White
got a record out.
And Too Tall Jones. They both have records. Kenny, and it appeared to be knocked down by number 77, Jim Jeffcoat.
I believe it was Too Tall that got it, Dick, coming in from that side, and if he did, that's a new record for him. He tied his own record of 11 knockdowns. Well, they got a flag down. That means they'll take it away, but let's watch him anyway. It's worth seeing. Just like a big basketball player going up in the middle to reject that ball. There he is. Whack. Hands it right back to Kenny.
Would have been the 12th time this year.
Automatic first down.
Penalty against the Cowboys, however, brings the automatic first down for holding, I believe.
That's a holding call, and that'll move them out, and that's costly mistake because you're going to get the ball via the punt. Now suddenly Kansas City with new life and a first down just inside the 45-yard line.
Kenny trying to find Willie Scott at the Dallas 47, well covered by Klingscale, and Kenny doing a good job of darting around, avoiding the Dallas rush.
John Dutton, the man who really put the final pressure on him, but Kenny sifting very well in there as he moves back and forth.
Bill Kenny, here's a great story. Northern Colorado, you see Dutton going back. Kenny, actually Frank Cush at Arizona State had him as a freshman, try to make a tight end out of him. He never was truly a starting quarterback, even at Northern Colorado. Picked in the 333rd pick by Miami. He says, I don't have many bad habits because I don't have many habits as a quarterback. I've never played that much, but he's having a great year. Everything happened but the ball being snapped, and Randy White says they influenced us that time.
Well, White indicating that Mark Kirshner, and you can't blame that young man if he's a little anxious to get started, because one of Randy's strengths is his quickness from the defensive line. And of course, if you're going to block him, you've got to get up and get into position.
Ball start off.
So it goes against Kansas City.
Well, I'm sure that's the kind of thing you can forgive a young man who has not played a great deal, not as tuned in to the snap count of the quarterback, and of course his nerves bother a little bit.
Number 64, offense, 2nd down.
Kirshner, who played here in Texas at Baylor. You saw the chart in the hand of head coach John Makovic. He told us something interesting, that he's following a lot the attack plan of Bill Walsh of the 49ers. He'll pick his plays in advance. The quarterback will know his first 7, 8 plays, regardless of the situation. 15. Nice catch by Anthony Hancock, and he had possession as he went out of bounds at the 49, where it'll be 3rd down and 6.
Dick, this is the situation he's picking the plays for. The 3rd down situations. Those are the ones that he specifically writes on his list. And the reason he does that, he said, is because as a coach, he has certain favorites, certain plays he loves to call, and you get predictable. In this situation, Kenny doing a good job of looking. He follows his receiver all the way. That's an indication that the man he wanted most was open. Didn't have to look away. Hancock gets outside. 3rd and about 7.
Incomplete, intended for Carson, and I think we're going to get holding against the rookie Kirshner trying to stop Randy White.
Well, there was also, there are quite a few people using their hands on the line. We're seeing a lot of Don Smirek, number 60, and Jim Jeffcoat, 77, who've been inserted into the lineup on rushing downs. Cowboys have been relatively unhappy with the performance from the right defensive ends.
Holding, number 64, offense, declined, 4th down.
Well, he's going to get an education today. Mark Kirshner. Decline, so Dallas will get the ball leading 7-0. Jim Arnold to punt for the 3rd time already in this 1st quarter.
Much as you'd like to play, I don't know if you want to start your day here against Randy White.
Bad kick. Way out of bounds. He had himself lined up in the wrong direction. That was almost longer wide than it was deep. Great field position for Dallas as the ball is marked out at the 34-yard line. A 17-yard kick.
Mark Kirshner, and a ticket for that top side of your screen. You'll be able to see him in there. You see him locking up. Actually tripped over Bob Rush's foot, the center, and had to try and hang on. He was called for it. Unfortunately, that'll mark him back.
Home of the Cowboys, Texas Stadium. And, of course, one of the big news this week, Danny White and the rest of the Cowboys in this franchise apparently up for sale. Clint Murkison done such a great job, the owner of this team. Tony Dorsett out to the 37-yard line, a gain of 3. Let's bring you up to date on all the scores in NFL action today. The Los Angeles Raiders in the final seconds beating Buffalo on a field goal. It was Miami 37-0 over Baltimore. Minnesota, the 3rd straight time Pittsburgh, or not straight time, but the 3rd time they've lost this year at home. The Vikings, needing a win, got one at 3 Rivers. San Diego bombed by St. Louis 44-14. Cardinals playing well lately. Detroit came from way behind, won in overtime 23-20. We're going to see them on our Thanksgiving Day treat from Pontiac against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Lions now only a game out of first place in the NFC Central. Danny White, plenty of time, and Doug Cosby. The tight end Cosby, a 1st down near midfield. 12 yards before Gary Spaney could make the tackle.
One of the things you like to do is to isolate your receivers on the linebackers. Gary Spaney, back for a few weeks from injury, not quite as mobile as he would otherwise be, has got to follow big Doug Cosby, which is no easy job. And Cosby using his size and a good quick feet to get a hold of that football. He's done a lot of that this year. Boy, they're glad to have Spaney back in the lineup. He's their emotional leader of that defense.
Fortunately for us, technically, we're out of the sunshine. Here's a screen set up well for Dorsett. And he's hammered at the 43-yard line. A vicious hit from Mangiero, who followed the play. 7 yards for Dorsett.
Talking to Tony Dorsett, he was telling us about the cast that he's wearing on that right wrist. And that wrist is weak still from previous injuries, and that means he can only tuck the ball away on the left-hand side. That makes it difficult for him at times. You see him here as he gets this football on the quick screen play. Good play. He'll have to tuck the ball into that left arm, and that means that he can't use his straight arm as he would often have used otherwise. On that particular occasion, had the free arm, but when he's running the other way, does not have a free arm to use.
He's not a real big man, Dorsett, at 5'11" and 192, but there's no question about his toughness. Ron Springs, a 1st down at the Kansas City 35. We did not give you all the scores, so let's pick up the other finals. There were 4 shutouts today in the NFL, so some defenses were nearly perfect. The Cleveland Browns being one of those, as they defeated the New England Patriots at Foxborough 30-0. The Giants whitewashed Philadelphia 23-0. It was Cincinnati over Houston 38-10. And the Chicago Bears blanked Tampa Bay 27-0. You're right up to date on all the finals. Here at 7-0 Dallas. First down at the Kansas City 35. Dorsett. Cherry made the tackle as Dorsett did a good job of trying to slide outside, got away from everyone but Cherry.
Cherry originally drafted as a punter, if you can believe that. Got a chance to play later as a nickelback, and of course with Barbero becoming a holdout and not being available to John Makovic, he's become a vital cog and a very important cog in this defense.
The Redskins leading the Rams at Anaheim 10-6. Denver has a 10-0 lead against Seattle in the second. San Francisco 14-0 over Atlanta in the second quarter. Those are the other late games along with this one. On 2nd and 10, Dorsett, that little hop and skip, and then looking for the hole and finding 5 yards, 4 or 5 to the 30-yard line, where it'll be 3rd down and 5. Ken Fuzzy Kramer, number 91 from Ball State, made the tackle.
Kansas City Chiefs will often employ a 4-man line, pass rushing situations, try and get a little squeeze on the quarterback. They're not afraid to use 6 defensive backs. As you see 2 linebackers coming out, that's what they'll employ on this situation. In fact, the 3rd backer out. They may well have 7 defensive backs in on this particular situation.
Final seconds of the first quarter. 3rd and long 5. Wide open is Johnson. And a flag is down as Butch Johnson goes out of bounds inside the 9.
Late flag thrown by the side judge. We'll have to wait and see what it is. Could be a late holding call or an offensive interference call.
Mike Bell was zeroing in on White, and somebody rode him wide behind White. He just got a hand on the quarterback, and we'll see whether that was the hold.
A good quarterback almost has eyes in the back of his head, Dick, and he has to feel that. He cannot look at those rushing linemen. He has to feel them coming and know when to get his head down. And Danny White is able to do that. He has to keep his concentration downfield and still be able to sift through that pocket, get a little bit of extra time. Would appear that the Cowboys are not very happy about what's being discussed in that huddle down there. It may well be they're going to be called for offensive interference.
There's no foul on the play. Pass is completed.
Well,
so it'll be 1st and goal at the 9-yard line.
no pass. Danny White back. Watch Bell, 99, coming on the outside. Pat Donovan. And watch Danny. No way he can see him, but he feels the pressure. Just slides up enough to get himself a little bit of room. And that's enough to break him open for the pass here. Butch Johnson doing a good job of hauling it in. The Cowboys threatening again here to come up with more points. And, of course, Kansas City's defense looking at them from their 9-yard line. That means they've got almost a full 10 to go. But you've got to snug down here.
Pearson to the left. Cosby moves in tight on the right. Dorsett to the 8-yard line. Did some fancy running just to gain a couple. Charles Jackson, number 51, made the tackle. Former University of Washington star. He's an interesting story in that Jackson was drafted by Denver in '77, but they already had a Jackson, Tom, playing right linebacker. So Charles Jackson, who went to Washington where Michael Jackson played. Michael Jackson at Seattle at the same position. Jackson went to Seattle, did not go to Seattle, came here and find a spot. So Jackson is a popular name at outside linebacker right. There are 3 of them that start at that position in the National Football League. What was his name again?
I can't get into that one.
I'm sorry I did. White to Hill. It appeared to be a sure touchdown, but Bryant was enough in the way that Hill couldn't get around him and grab the ball.
And the defensive man is entitled to his position as well as the offensive man. The blitz was on, coming all the way. Derwin Rockmore blitzing in from his position. The ball thrown inside. Hill had to come back across the defender to try and reach it, and just unable to get his hands on it. We talked about the aggressiveness of this Kansas City defense. They were coming with an all-out blitz on that play, and were able to put enough pressure on Danny White that he put the pass inside.
Key play for that Kansas City defense as they try to hold Dallas to a field goal try. 3rd and goal. At Springs in motion. They go to Springs. Incomplete. Good coverage by Trent Bryant, who closed quickly. And in comes Raphael Septien to try a field goal.
The mark of a good defense, being able to react under pressure, being able to take teams who are in a sure scoring position and force them to settle for the 3 on this occasion. 2 earlier starts at their own 45 and their own 42 came away with no points. So the Cowboys here forced to settle for a field goal, and that's, believe it or not, that's quite a victory for the defense.
25-yard attempt. Glenn Carano holding. And it's good. The all-time score in Dallas history, now over 550 points. Raphael Septien gives the Cowboys a 10-point lead with only 10 seconds left in the first quarter. Tony Dorsett, you can imagine how many fans he must have in this great city. Live and in color, we are indeed from Texas Stadium, where the Cowboys lead Kansas City 10-0. Raphael Septien, Anthony Hancock, and they keep it in the end zone, where it'll be the touchback. And with 3 seconds remaining, Kansas City will put it in play out at the 20-yard line. We understand, Merlin, that Kurt Warner, with 34 yards today, became the first Seattle Seahawk to rush for 1,000 yards. What a rookie year for the ex-Penn State All-American.
And were it not for another young rookie who happens to be leading the NFL by the name of Dickerson, Warner indeed would probably be Rookie of the Year.
And Walter Payton to bring you up to date. He's over the 11,000-yard mark, and with his gains today passed O.J. Simpson, and is now number 3. Jim Brown, Franco Harris, then Walter Payton and O.J. Simpson, the top rushers in NFL history. Congratulations to that great athlete. Kenny to Marshall, very nearly intercepted by Dennis Thurman. He came ever so close to picking that one off, and it would have been a touchdown, but Marshall wrestled him for it, picked it off for what appears to be a first down at the 31-yard line at the end of the first quarter. The number 9 rusher in National Football League history, Tony Dorsett. He needs only 57 yards today to be the 9th man to reach the 8,000-yard mark in careers. And here are the statistics in the first quarter.
As you would expect, very strongly in favor of the Cowboys, who have moved the ball effectively on both ground and air. And look at that time of control. Cowboys anticipating pass, snugged up on the line. Everyone up on the line, not playing the flex here on first down.
The Otis Brown. And he gains about 3 yards. Clinksdale and Downs, the 2 safety men, came up to help out Bob Bruning.
Dick, I think all of our fans at home have grown accustomed to seeing the Dallas defensive linemen stagger themselves on the line of scrimmage. And of course, what that does when you back off the line, it allows you to pursue easier on the running plays, but it puts you at a disadvantage against the pass plays. Anticipating the pass today, they are snugged up on the line.
Well, against San Diego last week, they allowed only 23 yards, but of course San Diego didn't try to run too well.
340 in the air. I mean, that's a trade-off for you.
Now let's look at it again. Right there they are. Everyone lined up on the line. Kenny has a man at Beckman, and the big tight end is out to the 45-yard line before Downs can make the tackle, and a first down. Beckman from Florida State.
Again, you're looking, and here's the critical area right here as young Mark Kirshner working on Randy White. Let's get a chance to see what he did on that last way. Pushes him inside and actually uses the other defensive lineman, John Dutton, to partially block Randy White on that play. The end result was good protection on the part of the offensive line for the Chiefs, and they're able to get the pass off and complete it.
Bill Kenny closing in on Lenny Dawson's single-season yardage record for Kansas City. Stays on the ground this time, and Billy Jackson with very short yardage. John Dutton, former Nebraska All-American, made the tackle.
Rush, our center, Bob Rush, right in the middle of your screen, number 53. A lot of pressure on him today. He's the man who has to help on Randy White. Does a good job of getting up into White on that particular play. And, of course, what Kansas City is doing right now is knowing that Dallas has anticipated the pass play. They're trying to foul them up a little bit, trying to do a little running today, and have not run ineffectively, have certainly not dominated on the line of scrimmage, but
2nd and 8 on this one. And he hits the Otis Brown, who does a good dancing move along the sidelines, and is to the Dallas 45. Be very close to a first down. With that completion, Bill Kenny has surpassed the single-season Kansas City passing record of yards set by Lenny Dawson, and he's done it in 12 games. So Bill Kenny, Northern Colorado, is the new all-time yardage man for a season in Kansas City history.
John Makovic talking to us earlier today about how quickly this young man has increased his knowledge and his capability in the passing game. And one of the things that helped him most was finally having their quarterback situation resolved. He and Steve Fuller have been battling for 4 years for that position. Kenny's #1 now. He knows it pays big dividends.
On 3rd and short, and the Cowboys are waiting for Jackson. Bob Brunig. Boy, he was in there almost as if he knew what play was coming.
One of the things that Bob Brunig does best is to read the offense. He anticipates the plays. He anticipates the tendencies, just like a spotlight right in the middle of your screen. Look how quickly he reacts. And then he comes up inside. Matt Herkenhoff tried to get back to him, number 60, but Brunig cutting inside. And I think everyone anticipated that Brunig would flow along the line. He did not. He cut up inside and made a great play.
A loss of 2, so Arnold aims it toward the corner, and it is in the end zone. So Arnold did not get the bounce he wants. A touchback at the 20-yard line. 27 yards net on the punt, 47 overall. Dallas has a 10-point lead and the ball. From Texas Stadium, we pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
You're watching KOB TV 4 Albuquerque, KSWS TV 8 Roswell, and KOBF TV 12 Farmington.
Welcome back to Irving, Texas. Dick Enberg with Merlin Olsen. Second quarter play, 12 minutes, 34 seconds left before the half. Dallas with the ball and a 10-0 lead. The Cowboys' big play was a 58-yard pass, White to Hill, set up Springs' 1-yard touchdown, and Rafael Septien a 25-yard field goal. That's the story. Kansas City playing with some key injuries and have been hurt perhaps where they could least afford it. That's in the offensive line, losing Buddy, whose assignment was to stop Randy White, and now working with a rookie. Rafferty, meanwhile, he has his own handicap.
He's got his own problems, Dick. He's got turf toe, a rather common ailment. Has sprained a big toe, and on his one foot he's got a size 12.5 shoe. On his other foot, a size 14.5 shoe. You can see that big left shoe? He's got a full brace on that toe inside.
Stamp out small brush fires with those.
Yes, it could.
Tony Dorsett has a first down at the 32, maybe the 33. Spaney made the tackle, a 10-yard gain.
And certainly it didn't stop Rafferty from being effective on that last play. Here he is right in the middle of the screen. Watch the kind of blocking he gives you right here on Dino Mangiero. Mangiero starting to his left. Rafferty stays with him, keeps pushing on him, and you see the great acceleration of number 30, Tony Dorsett. And that's what makes him, I think, such a great back. The ability to shift laterally and then to shift gears and burst through those holes.
And he needs only 36 yards to reach the 8,000-yard mark. Nothing there on that one. In fact, he may have lost a half yard. Burris and Mangiero collaborate on the tackle. Lloyd Burris from Maryland, number 34, starter since a rookie, now in his 3rd year, and he's had a fine season. He's one of the unknowns that are playing very well.
I wouldn't say he's exactly unknown, Dick, but he certainly is one of those people who doesn't talk a lot about himself. He wants to let his play on the field show you what kind of an athlete he is, and believe me, he does that effectively. Able to cover extremely well, and with some experience as a linebacker, he's one of the best hitters on the field today.
2nd down, 11. White, Dorsett, and a saving tackle by Spaney as Dorsett had some room to run along the sidelines, but Spaney caught him by a heel, a 5-yard gain.
Just a shoestring tackle by number 59, Gary Spaney. Watch him all the way from the right-hand corner of your screen. Spaney reads the play, gets over, and Dorsett looks like he may get away, goes down and grabs a hold of that ankle, just puts a little tie on him, takes him to the ground, third down, about 7 yards to go for the Dallas Cowboys.
Too Tall Jones, and of course with the open roof here at Irving, Texas, it causes some interesting shadows. Sunlight now where the ball is, other place in shadows, so our technicians certainly having their hands full. This is Hill coming back to catch the ball
I
at
don't
the
think
40.
he's got it.
No, he does not. If they mark it at the 40, he'll be short 2 yards, and in comes the punting unit.
Tony will not be happy with the way he played that particular situation. Actually was deep enough for the first down, coming back to the ball, took him back behind the marker, and they'll have to kick it away.
9 minutes and 20 seconds left in the first half. Danny White. Jim Miller has been signed. The barefooted kicker used to be with the 49ers. He's in uniform today for Dallas as a backup punter to White. This is J.T. Smith, who has had a couple of touchdown returns in 2 different years, 4 in his career. Uh-oh. Danny White all the way to the 39-yard line, up to his old tricks.
Danny White has the green light from Tom Landry. He starts forward and sees that the Kansas City special teams have already gone downfield to block. He simply tucked the ball away and became a runner. Then he became a baseball player and slides in safe.
And he was a good baseball player and was drafted by some major league teams back in his years at Arizona State. So the stoic Landry sees the fake punt. 22-yard run by White and a first down at the Kansas City 39. Springs out of bounds at the 29-yard line, close to a first down.
It appeared to me that Danny White read by position a blitz on this play. Not unusual for Kansas City to come after you with the blitz after a big play. Simply throws the little swing pass out to Ron Springs. Does a good job of taking advantage of that one-on-one coverage by Gary Spaney, the linebacker. And boy, I'll tell you, it's difficult when you put a speedy back like Springs one-on-one with a linebacker. White able to take advantage of it, and he's got a throwaway down here. Let's see if they don't go for all the marbles here, Dick.
Well, Springs, 2 catches today, now has 57. He's going after Frank Clark's all-time Dallas record of 65. Tony Hill, and that's exactly, Merlin, what they were doing with a free down. They went for the bomb, and Hill working on Trent Bryant.
Tony Hill on the far side of your field. Trent Bryant right here in the center. Watch him as he gets the coverage here. Now Tony will try and get him to bite short. He'll just try and put a little wiggle on him there. Trent Bryant having none of it. Downfield nicely. Did you see that move that Tony put on him though? Looked back before that ball arrived and froze the defensive back. Unfortunately, the ball out of the end zone. Had he caught it, would not have been a touchdown.
3rd and a yard, and Springs has the first down at the Kansas City 28.
The Cowboys are so confident running in behind their offensive line that they could afford to throw away that second down, expecting to do exactly what they did in that situation, pick it up on the 3rd down.
Well, if you're ever down in that beautiful city of Williamsburg, Virginia, you might run into a street sign that says Ron Springs Drive. Well, they've named a street in honor of one of their favorite athletes. Went on to Ohio State, where had a great junior year, injured as a senior, and that's why he was available in the 5th round, and Dallas made a great pick. Dorsett.
It certainly was. Good running backs also have to be good blockers. Number 20, Ron Springs, right there. An excellent block on Thomas Howard. But watch the acceleration of Tony Dorsett. Just saw the hole and popped inside. Another look at it. Dorsett will set it up outside, but look at him as he pops inside. Just that little wiggle, and then cuts back against the grain.
We'll see that again. First, let's take care of the extra point try by Septien. And it is 17-0.
Dick, at the end of that run, he was able to use a screen actually by Tony Hill, number 80. Now watch Dorsett right here on Trent Bryant, and Hill is the man that will position himself between Dorsett and Bryant. And of course, you can't give him that much room or he'll just waltz into the end zone on you.
And with that run, Dorsett is over 8,000 career yards. And now the 9th man in NFL history to rush for more than 8,000 yards. He's done it in 7 seasons. Oh my.
And Dick, only in one of those years did he not go over 1,000 yards.
And it took a strike to stop him in that year. That was last season. Anthony Hancock at the 5. Breaks out of the pack at the 25 to 30. And out of bounds at the 33-yard line. Make it the 38-yard line. Anthony Hancock with Ron Fellows making the tackle. Kansas City has some work to do. They're trailing 17-0 with 7 minutes left in the first half.
Introducing.
Back to Texas, the Cowboys enjoying a 17-0 lead. But we're going to enjoy the fact tonight, Merlin Olsen, on First Camera, which will follow in the Eastern Time Zone, 7 o'clock in the area. And that, along with just an insight into an exceptional athlete, that'll be one of the features on First Camera, so stay tuned here on NBC. Kansas City trailing 17-0 at the 38-yard line. Nice catch by Stephon Page in front of Everson Walls near midfield. A first down for the Chiefs. Page's first catch. He's from Fresno State, his 14th of the year.
Stephon Page, one of the young men that they're counting on to give them even greater depth at that wide receiver position, doing a good job of breaking out one-on-one on Everson Walls, and that pass right on the money. That's the kind of passing, pinpoint passing, that has caused this Kansas City offense to be very effective, but they have not been able to get that ball into the end zone today.
Under a blitz, Hancock to the Dallas 37-yard line, and Kenny was dumped under pressure through an accurate strike for the first down, 13 yards.
Someone we're not seeing much of today, number 79, Harvey Martin.
I thought he was treated brutally in the Dallas newspapers this week in a commentary, or they called him a crybaby. I mean, they said things about him that you wouldn't call your next door neighbor even if you didn't like him.
Well, there is a bit of an ongoing feud between certain writers and certain players. I think that particular writer better stay away from Harvey for quite some time.
I would think so. Down the middle, incomplete. Intended for Hancock.
I'll tell you, Kenny has impressed me today. One of the ways you test quarterbacks, and I remember doing it many times, you get a shot at them coming up the middle, and you know they're locked on a receiver, and you know that they know you're coming. Now, will they hang on to the football until the last minute and then deliver the pass, or will they throw it before they know that receiver's open? Kenny will hang on to the football. We've seen him do it several times already, and he'll take the shot, and he'll go down, and you have to say that's a quarterback with courage.
Theodis Brown. And a fumble. Ball goes out of bounds at the 39-yard line. And, of course, Kansas City will maintain it.
We've got a Dallas Cowboy on the ground and a flag on the ground. Dennis Thurman, 32. Mark Kirshner, the man who was over there with him.
Thurman's okay. And the penalties against Kansas City. So things not going well for the Chiefs as they play Dallas for the first time in 8 years. Last time was here in Texas Stadium, and Kansas City upset the Cowboys.
And I believe that not having played the Cowboys in quite a while and coming in here to the stadium, this is an impressive stadium, and of course a team with a great reputation. It's got to be tough on the Kansas City Chiefs. They've got a lot of young players, and I think they are perhaps a bit in awe today of the mighty Cowboys. And
it would have 6-yard line. Oh, it's a big one, 15 yards. So
no, I believe that's a personal foul.
Personal foul, leg whip, number 60, offense, second down.
Matt Herkenhoff guilty of the foul, a leg whip. I know you defensive linemen never appreciated that approach, and you took your share of those.
Well, you hate to see those legs and those heels coming around at you. Of course, that's the reason that it is a personal foul, because it very often can do a violent injury to the defensive back, defensive lineman.
So it's 2nd and 25 after the penalty, and Kenny operates from the shotgun. Jim Jeffcoat. That's the first sack for the Cowboys. #1 draft pick out of Arizona State.
Seeing some action last week. He's being tested today. The Cowboys have not been pleased with the kind of performance they've been getting from Harvey Martin. Larry Bethea has had a chance in there, and this youngster now getting an opportunity. Randy White coming inside. They flush Kenny toward the front of the pocket, and Jeffcoat comes back up inside behind Matt Herkenhoff to make the tackle. You can't blame an offensive line for that. Quarterback just simply took too much time.
Flag down as Kenny drilled again as he delivers downfield. He was looking for Carlos Carson, and it appears another hold against Kansas City. It is.
Looked like he was pointing to Bob Rush on the play and said, "You're the guilty party. Let's see if it was."
Kansas City scoring.
Number 73, offense.
Bob Simmons.
Declined. 4th down.
Chiefs have had more success in the first half than in the second half, and they're already down 17-0 today, so that does not bode well for John Makovich's club, who are now in a punting situation. Jim Arnold, he's been busy. Allen looking into the sun back at the 11. He doesn't see the ball now, looking for it, and it's another poor kick by Arnold. He kicks a good one, then he has a bad one, and this one is out of bounds at the 28-yard line. So another short yardage, and Allen, he was blinded by the sun.
Boy, that's a tough position to be in. The ball kicked high and short. Allen never got his eyes on it. Made a mistake last week. Called for a fair catch in the San Diego game and then threw a block. Got a penalty for it that put them in the hole late in the ball game.
Just a 26-yard punt, so Dallas in good field position again, and they lead by 17. Hope you'll gobble up the action. Thanksgiving Day beginning at noon, NFL 83, and they'll have some features in NFL 83 on Franco Harris and Billy Sims of the Lions. Merlin and I will be able to share the holiday with you. We hope you'll save a chair for us. First down, Cowboys. That fakes to the left, and then Dorsett to the right. And Dorsett downfield to the 44-yard line. A gain of 15.
A little double screen. We're going to give you a chance to watch what the linemen are doing on this play. Watch Howard Richards, number 70. Now, his first responsibility is to make this look like a pass. Drops back. They let the defensive lineman penetrate, and then he becomes a blocker. One-on-one on Clinton Daniels on the outside, doing a good job. And Dorsett so quick to take advantage of that block and get the extra yardage. But a fine job on the inside by a man who's playing for the injured Kurt Peterson, Howard Richards.
#1 draft pick out of Missouri a couple of years ago by the Cowboys. First down at their 44, leading 17-0, and at this point dominating the game. Ron Springs stopped at the 49 after a gain of 5. Jerry Blanton from Kentucky. Calvin Daniels of North Carolina made the tackle.
And inside, you'll get another chance to watch the blocking of Richards and Rafferty and Jim Cooper. Right here is Art Still into the game. Cooper working on him. Richards working on Blanton. Jerry Blanton, 57, and getting good push on him as they just run right up and behind the surge of that Dallas offensive line. Good play.
Meanwhile, it appears Dallas not getting any help from the Rams. The Redskins pounding Los Angeles 29-6 in the second quarter. White wide open. Tony Hill, and this time he was open against All-Pro Gary Green. First down at the Kansas City 37.
Well, if you've been hankering to get in on the action, put on your helmet. You may have this one land in your lap. The ball thrown right over the top, and Hill just putting some fine moves. Put one of the fine defensive cornerbacks in football back on his heels, and then caught the ball in front of him for a big gain and a first down.
Well, he has 3 catches today and 75 yards. Tony Hill. First down at the 37. That last one was worth 14 yards. 3:45 remaining in the first half. Dallas 17-0. Flags are down. And Danny White just threw that one away.
Well, Doug Cosby, the tight end, just off the line a little too quick on that play. Going to draw a 5-yard penalty for offsides.
Meanwhile, Denver leading Seattle 20-7. The loser of that game almost kissing any playoff hopes goodbye. We told you that Washington was leading the Los Angeles Rams by a healthy count late in the first half, 29-6.
One of the things that Tom Landry was worried about was that his players might be looking past some of these ball games to that Washington game. Of course, they can't afford to do that.
Illegal motion, number 88, offense, first down.
Drew Pearson, quick off the line of scrimmage. Atlanta rallying. They were down 14-0. They've tied the 49ers late in the second quarter. Tom Landry's teams have traditionally celebrated Thanksgiving by earning win after win. This has been their time of the year, hasn't it, Merlin?
Well, and it's the time of the year you want to play your best football. You want to be strongest at the end of the season and into the playoffs.
First and 15, and they run out of the shotgun as Dorsett gets to the 41-yard line.
And Dick, it's not just on Thanksgiving Day. The week before Thanksgiving and the week after Thanksgiving have also been powerful weeks for these Cowboys. You just look at those numbers.
That
in a 15-year period, that's
36, 8, and 1 right now. This Sunday, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, then of course they play Thanksgiving, and then they get the extra 3 days rest, and they have just dominated, and that's sent them off to the playoffs almost every year.
Well, I've got to believe that playing at home on Thanksgiving Day really puts the visiting team at a disadvantage. Short week with travel really puts the visitor in the hard way, and then you've got the extra time at home to prepare for the next game.
Well, it'll be the Cardinals here on Thanksgiving for Dallas. Third down play, intercepted by Duron Sherry, the 25, the 30, and Sherry is out to the 42-yard line with his 7th interception of the year.
When Gary Barbaro decided not to play this year, to hold out, a lot of people said, well, there goes the strength of this Kansas City secondary. Not so. Number 23, Duron Sherry, will pick up the receiver, Drew Pearson, late. Pearson heading for the corner now, but watch Cherry just reading the ball beautifully, goes up like a center fielder going to the wall and takes it away from Drew Pearson.
Not bad for a free agent punter out of Rutgers.
Not bad at all. Not a well-thrown ball by Danny White.
And Cherry returns at 32 yards to the 42. Let's see if Kansas City can take advantage. There's the cherry picker, Duron, with his 7th of the year. And that would tie him. We haven't heard how the other leaders, but 7 was the NFL lead, shared by 3 players prior to today, and now Cherry has his 7th. Kansas City from the 42.
And we've got 7 defensive backs in there against him.
Kenny with a little roll. There's his man, Carlos Carson at midfield. Carson, who came into today's action with 52 catches.
And this is something we'd anticipated. One of the problems that Kenny is having, that the Chiefs are having, they're playing against a defense that is able to almost disregard the threat of the run and center themselves on the passing game. On that last play, 7 defensive backs in the game. They've still got them in there. They're daring Kansas City to run the ball.
Kenny again to the pass, and again it's Carson out of bounds at the Dallas 38. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs have passed the ball more than 3 times out of 4. That's the 29th play, and they've thrown the ball 22 out of 29 times.
And that's where their real successes come. But when you don't have balance, Dick, when you can't balance the running and passing game, and I don't think you have to run 1-to-1, but you have to have the threat of the run. You have to have the threat of the pass in order to be truly effective with the opposite. And certainly Kansas City not able to get a real threat of the run here today.
Ken Thomas, a rookie from San Jose State, is in the backfield now for Kansas City. Whoops, that's going to be intercepted. Ron Fellows, 20, 30. He's to the 34-yard line.
Fellows will get credit for the interception, but number 54, Randy White, is the man who caused the interception. He nailed Kinney, right as he threw that ball, looking deep now. Ron Fellows right at the bottom of your screen does a good job of reading, but Kinney, under an intense rush, throws it short. And Fellows just goes up. Much the same kind of play as Duron Cherry made. Now, you want to watch a quarterback paying his dues. Watch it here. Watch Randy White. Oh, he just snagged him and took him right off his feet. And the ball underthrown as a result.
And Ron Fellows, an excellent job running the ball after the interception all the way back to the 34. His 5th interception this year. He's had a big year. 2-minute warning. Warner, a 1,000-yard rusher for the Seahawks, plus all the scores highlights at halftime. Stay with us. Len Berman and the crew. First down, Dallas. White out of the shotgun from the 34. 17-0 Cowboys, looking for more. And there's Cosby. Lloyd Burris with a tackle at the 44-yard line, just shy of a first down.
Dallas will go without the huddle here as they hurry back to the line of scrimmage. They're not satisfied with that lead. They'd like to get more.
On 2nd and 1. Timmy Newsome, 50, 45, and Newsome all the way to the 40-yard line. Well, he's been a productive receiver. 13 catches, 3 of them for touchdowns this year. And that's a first down at the 40 of Kansas City. Timeout, plenty of time for Dallas. 1 minute, 20 seconds remaining in the first half. Houston Oilers coach next year. He has the most longevity of any assistant in the NFL now. Stallings, who was a former head coach at Texas A&M, prized assistant under Bear Bryant at Alabama. He's in charge, what?
Defensive backs here and working for Tom Landry. And Ernie Stotner, of course, in charge of the defense.
Many feel his time is long overdue to be a head coach again. Tony Dorsett, 35-30, and he's down to the 29-yard line. Clock running with 1:10 left, 12 yards on that play.
Twice in a row, they've stretched the defense and then thrown underneath. That's like a long handoff to Dorsett, and with everybody stretched out, he's got room to run.
First down at the 29. White with 55 seconds left and 2 timeouts remaining. Great protection. Duron Cherry saved a touchdown as Dorsett could see 6 points written all over that one, but Cherry, a perfectly timed hit.
You hit it right on the nail, Dick. Arriving a little bit earlier, he's tagged for interference. Arriving a little later, this is a touchdown. Closing right there and arrives simultaneously with the football. Impossible for Tony Dorsett, who's a good receiver, to get his hands on it.
Cherry with 1 interception today and 7 on the year, and a fine play breaking up that touchdown attempt with 47 seconds left in the half. Pearson to the left, Hill to the right. He stole it from Lucius Smith. Smith had a much better shot at an interception, and Pearson with some highway robbery.
Kansas City with 7 defensive backs right now on the field. No linebackers.
Well, Pearson hadn't caught a ball. He was hungry. And White throws that one away. Tony Hill was the nearest white shirt down at the goal line. And with 19 seconds left, it will be 4th down and 5. So Septien comes in.
Some of the great receivers can get the football when there's no chance to get the football. This is the last play. Throw right there down the middle. No question. That's a battle. Lucius Smith looks like he's got it. Going to pull it away. No way. Drew Pearson. Look at him. He said, hey, here it is over here.
He said, no one's throwing to me. I got to fight for anything I can get. This is a 40-yard attempt by Septien, who's made good on a shorter at 25. And like everything else in this first half, it's good for Dallas.
Well, Tom Landry said yesterday that one of his goals was to start his team into motion to get them ready ready for the playoffs. He said, we've been slow starters throughout this season. He said, we've got to get ourselves moving. Well, they certainly have today. They've been almost flawless here in the first half. And John Makovic on the other side, confident that his team could at least be competitive today, must be bitterly disappointed at the way they played in this first half.
20-0 Dallas. The one game that Landry points to as a perfect game, or at least the best game for Dallas this year, was the 37-7 win against the Eagles. But even then, the Eagles scored first, so he's been behind in every game they've won. But today, ahead from the start, 20-0. Well, the other scores. The Raiders win on a bar field goal at the buzzer, 27-24. Miami, 37-0, shuts out the Colts. Minnesota wins at Pittsburgh by 3, stays in first place. St. Louis clobbers San Diego 44-14. It was Detroit rallying from a 14-point deficit to win in overtime against Green Bay. Anthony Hancock, and he is surrounded by Cowboys at the 27-yard line. Bill Bates again in on the tackle, along with Bruce Huther. 9 seconds remaining in the half. 14-yard return. Kenny a chance, a couple desperation throws. Cleveland, big win at New England, a shutout of the Patriots, 30-0. How do you figure the Patriots? Giants, that's an important win for Parcells and company against the Eagles, 23-0. Cincinnati playing very well mid part of the year. Bears a shutout against Tampa Bay as Walter Payton moves into the number 3 spot all time. And at halftime, the Redskins have a 29-6 lead. Denver leads Seattle 20-7 at the half. You'll get all the details at halftime on NFL 83. Well, Dallas playing pass, so they give it to Brown, who picks up about 10 yards, and that'll be the end of the first half here at Texas Stadium. Tom Landry's Dallas Cowboys owning the first half of this one. All Dallas 20-0. Stay tuned for NFL 83.
Mexico Greyhounds will be.
In the first half at Texas Stadium, Danny White's pass to Tony Hill got the Cowboys off on the right foot, 58 yards, set up the first touchdown in a half dominated by Dallas, 20-0.
Okay, Dick Enberg and Len Berman in New York. Let's wrap up all the scores up to the minute around the National Football League. Some big stories, none bigger than perhaps in Buffalo. The great comeback by the Bills, but the last-second victory by the Raiders. The final there for the first-place L.A. Raiders, 27-24. What a comeback, though, for Matt Koffler playing for the injured Joe Ferguson. On a 4th and 15, got it to Perry Tuttle. What was a 24-3 lead for the Raiders was suddenly tied, 24-24. But in the final seconds for the second week in a row, Chris Barr wins it for the Raiders. So the Raiders are now 9-3, final 27-24. Big day for Miami over Baltimore because the other key contenders in the AFC East all lost. Minnesota moves into first place NFC Central by themselves. Pittsburgh's winning streak is over. St. Louis, big over San Diego. You know, St. Louis has a playoff shot now. Detroit in overtime over Green Bay, 23-20. Cleveland helped their playoff hopes, 30-0 over New England. Giants shut out Philly, first Giant win in 2 months. Cincinnati over Houston, 38-10. Houston's winning streak is over at 1. Chicago over Tampa Bay. Walter Payton now third place all-time rusher. Game you're watching, all Dallas, 20-0 over the Kansas City Chiefs. Washington always wins on Sunday. Their only losses on Monday, 29-6 Redskins in the third quarter. Denver and Seattle. Gary Kubiak, the quarterback for Denver. Elway has the flu, 27-7 Denver. That game in the third quarter. In the third quarter, San Francisco and Atlanta. That's a key game in the NFC West. And with the Rams losing, San Francisco could take over sole possession, first place in the West, 14-14 third quarter. Reminder, Thanksgiving Day. Hope you'll join us. Silver Dome, Pontiac, Michigan. We will have Pittsburgh at Detroit. And a reminder that tonight here on NBC, the premiere of
And that big D could stand in capital letters for Danny White, whose quarterbacking has been outstanding in the first half. And oh my, Tony Dorsett, there's a D that you can underline, and he made one of those runs that only the greats can execute, and it was a big touchdown for Dallas.
He certainly did, Dick. And of course the running has been a big difference. The running that Dallas has been able to do and that Kansas City has not been able to do. You see some of the vintage Dorsett here, the little shake of the body as he sets up the block, and then the acceleration as he breaks out of a tackle right there from Lloyd Burris and then runs downfield. Again, a good block right there by Tony Hill. and Dorsett into the end zone. But as Weed indicated, when you can line up defensively and know that a team cannot run the football, and that's been the feeling, I think, on the Dallas defensive side, then you can play pass on every down. And when you can do that defensively as a lineman, you can really put some squeeze on a quarterback, and you can make it difficult for him. The Cowboys going with as many as 7 defensive backs. I've never seen them do that before, and that certainly because they do not feel that Kansas City can run the ball on them.
It was interesting that to John Makovic we said it. I guess the answer is rather obvious, but we'll ask the question anyway. This morning we said to John, and said, if you could take one player off the Dallas roster and put him in a Kansas City red jersey today, who would it be? And of course he said Tony Dorsett.
Well, he would have loved to have had Dorsett to kind of balance out what they're doing today. Makovic has had to do some soul searching in the locker room, has to wonder how they're going to get back into this ball game. Only one way to do it, and that's to go out and not lose your cool and do the things you do best. Halftime statistics, as you would expect, very one-sided. 147 to 295, doubling the yardage. The Cowboys twice as many yards, and the critical yardage, 37 yards rushing by the Chiefs, and many of those late in the game on a big run on a passing down with time running out.
And Dallas with a 20-0 lead will get the ball first to start this second half. Nick Lowry, first time we've had a chance to mention his name, the talented kicker. Ron Fellows at the 20, and he's got blockers, 30, 40, and dragged down from behind at the Kansas City 47-yard line. Stephon Page made the hit. So Fellows gives every indication that the Cowboys intend to continue as they left.
Well, Ron Fellows certainly doing what Tom Landry wanted his team to do, and that's come back out here in the second half and establish the same kind of domination you had in the first half. Fellows doing a good job getting some good blocks. They're certainly pleased. They've had good field position throughout this game. Much better field position than Kansas City has had.
Officially 50 yards on the kickoff return to the Kansas City 47. Ron Springs. Ooh, well, Kansas City comes out a knocking. Calvin Daniels, second-round pick last year from North Carolina, where he was a linebacker teammate of Lawrence Taylor. He put a Taylor hit on the runner.
Calvin Daniels getting much more playing time as we get late in the year here and showing people some impressive performances. But you need a turnover here, Dick. You need some big plays defensively. You've got to get the ball away from Dallas, and you've also got to get your offense on track. And, of course, the Cowboys, with that big lead, they can do almost anything they want to do.
White apparently headed for another 300-yard passing day. Stays on the ground to Dorsett, and Dorsett hit from the backside by 57 Jerry Blanton as he made his fake and slowing down. That allowed Blanton to sift through and catch him on the backside for a 1-yard loss.
Blanton took over the leadership of this defense with Spaney gone and was able to do a fine job as their leading tackler going into this ball game, and certainly pleased Bud Carson, as defensive coordinator, with the kind of play that he has exhibited.
Third down and nearly 10, so Timmy Newsome will come in. He usually plays one of the wings out of the shotgun, and that's how White will align it. Big down for Kansas City. They need the ball, trailing 20-0. White, and he goes to his favorite man, Hill, but it'll be short of a first down by about a yard.
Tony Hill missed a number of ball games earlier in the year as he was limping on a bad foot. Well, he has come back with a vengeance. 8 yards on that play, and he's found room in front of those cornerbacks all day long. Working Bryant on the far side and certainly doing an effective job on Gary Green on that last play.
Al White will line up in punt formation. It was his 28-yard run out of punt formation that was a key to the second Dallas touchdown, and really an emotional switch in play in the second quarter. It appeared Kansas City to get the ball. They were trailing only 10-0 at the time. Instead, White set up a second score that made it 17-0. Kicks it this time, and it finds the end zone to the dismay of White. And Kansas City will start at the 20-yard line. 38-yard punt, but only 18 yards net. Well, this is a big series for Bill Kenny and the Kansas City Chiefs. They need to score to get that sidelines to start believing.
Need to get something pumping here. And as I said, There's no question they're at a disadvantage. Not only did the Cowboy team know they were going to throw the football going into the game, but down 20 points, now they've got to begin to reach for those long throws because time is an enemy as well.
Kenny to Theodis Brown. Nothing there. He stopped right at the line of scrimmage and appeared he may have fumbled as he went down. Washington 36-6 says the Redskins may well be the best team in the National Football League at this stage of the year. Denver 27-7. The Broncos at home with a third-string quarterback leading Seattle. 49ers in Atlanta tied at 14 third quarter. Those are the other late games. Everything else a final. Here it's Dallas 20, Kansas City nothing. 2nd and 10.
All of the linebackers checked out of the ball game. 7 defensive backs again.
Complete to Carson. And he almost was loose for a touchdown. Everson Walls, his fingernails were just long enough to drag him down as Carson, with great speed, was spinning away for a possible long touchdown. It went for 29 yards.
Carson absolutely turned Everson Walls around. Beats him badly. Notice he gets his back turned and then breaks outside. But watch the recovery by Walls, just diving and stumbling and clamping on one foot. I believe that may have been a touchdown had he gotten away.
Out to the 49-yard line. First down, Kansas City. 11 minutes left, third quarter.
Blitz.
Full blitz. And Kenny said, I'm going to give this one to someone else. And the rock winds up in the arms of Ken Thomas, the number 7 draft pick from San Jose State, for little if any gain.
Now, if you have a chance to break a play like that with everyone blitzing, sometimes it goes for a big gainer. Unfortunately, they had the play called right in the middle of the line, and Brunig and Michael Downs were blitzing right into that area. Brunig, the man who made the tackle.
A loss of a yard, 2nd and 11. Fumble, and Dallas has it at the 32-yard line.
Making some unusual adjustments on that play, had stacked 3 of their defensive linemen on the right side, and it's Dexter Clinkscale also coming from the right side. He'll come from the left of your screen. Kenny turns his back. Clinkscale right on top of him. Billy Bates, the man who hammered him, a sandwich in there, and of course the Cowboys recover it.
Quarter, Dallas has recovered a fumble at the Kansas City 32. The Cowboys dominating play, leading 20-0. Bill Bates forced that last fumble. Danny White to Billy Joe Dupree. His juggling attempt awry at the 25-yard line. Today's game is brought to you by Chevrolet, official U.S. cars and trucks of the 14th Olympic Winter Games. Chevrolet out 65,000 at beautiful Texas Stadium. Not all the folks used their tickets. Turnovers a +2 for Dallas. They came in with a +10 on the year. Ron Springs. 25, Dorsett at the 15, the 10. Touchdown, Dorsett. Tony Dorsett.
Number 33. Almost matched his number on that play, a 32-yard scamper. You saw him using his power to break a tackle, and then out and out using his speed to get away from Cherry and tiptoe past that end marker into the end zone.
Hard to believe Dorsett had only 2 touchdowns all year and 2 long gainers here today for scores. 32 yards. As Septien hits the extra point. Dorsett has one from 28 and this one from 32.
The great running backs can turn an average play into a great play. And look at the move he put on right there. Lloyd Burris, 34, dropped completely out of his shoes. Dorsett into the end zone.
Sliding in 1,000-yard season again. Jersey was big enough you could just put 1,000 on his back. He got 1,000 yards every year, 4 years at Pitt, 1,000 yards every full season in Dallas. That's 7 times out of 8. The only reason he didn't get it last year, he was on pace, but of course the shortened 9-game season because of the strike. That one won't be returned. Kansas City will start from the 20-yard line. So Tony Dorsett, 8,039 yards in his career, number 8 all-time. Larry Zonka is ahead of him. Zonka with 8,082, and it appears Dorsett will pass the Zonk maybe even today.
Well, and the Cowboys have never lost in this stadium when he's had a dominant day, and he's off to a most dominant day today.
What are they, 20?